Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Man, just got to bring you an update on NEO. What is going on with NEO, right? A lot of people are asking, is it too high? Should I pull back? Should I wait for a pullback? Should I buy here? And, you know, NEO has been by far the leader in this recent run-up, and I'm seeing a lot of commentary on NEO, a lot of videos on NEO, and so no doubt this run has gotten a lot of attention. NEO hit what, high $50 earlier today, so just an incredible move up from that breakout around $8 to $9 or so. So let's take a look at the chart. So here's the daily chart of NEO, and you know it's following the 10 EMA pretty good, so no complaints there. If that starts to break, you know, probably gonna have another leg down, but I was hoping that this recent pullback would have really just kind of turned into a little consolidation, and it's just super strong and decided to take off again earlier today, kind of battling it out here. Let's zoom in a little bit on the chart. So I'll go to 4 hour, and you can see here again just nice little pullbacks, big volume, more pullbacks here, and on the pullbacks you see the volume just gets lighter and lighter, so that's a very bullish sign. I mean, it's just no one's really selling. I mean, there's some small profit taking here, but it's not major dumping here yet, so good sign, can't complain. Up here, you know, you're seeing a little bit of profit taking here, big volume showing up, not a lot of movement, seen some pulling in here, so it's kind of just pulling back right now to this little breakout it had earlier today. So you know, and it's one of those things, you know, people are asking me, should I wait, should I take profit, should I get out? And it's just really hard to say, to be honest with you, because it's super strong. It's probably my #1 choice right now, and I've been hammering NEO and when it was ant shares for a long time. So if you're not in it now, it's kind of hard to say, right? If you were in it back in here, or even just shortly after the breakouts, you know, longer term, I think NEO's got a long ways to go. So hang tight. Near term, anything can happen. I hate to say it, I hate to be so ambiguous, but it's true. I mean, we've had a huge run, but it's been very constructive. You know, we had these little pullbacks, so it's not too bad. So it could just pull back here and keep going up again. I'd like to see this just kind of march along steadily. You know, it makes me a little nervous when things get a little too parabolic, so it was kind of nice to see this little pullback here, little pop up. So if it can stair step its way up, no complaints there. If you're looking to get on, if you're not in this, look for these type of little pullbacks, right? When you see these little dips, these long support bars, those are just all bullish signs. And if you want to wait for it to break out like here, that's another good way to do it. Pulls back right at the 10 right now, so this might be a little secondary entry on today's action, but you know, you're just gonna have to watch this day by day at this point, just because it's super strong, and we'll just have to keep an eye on it to see where it goes. But no complaints on NEO. Would I be selling it here? You know, I'm just at this point, I'm gonna say no. You know, unless you just want to take some profits. But at this point, it's just moving along nicely. It's pretty strong. You know, if you start to see some big volume reversals to the downside, undercutting some of these recent lows, then you know, you might see a couple legs down. But even at this point, I mean, just to undercut these lows, it's a pretty big move to the downside. I mean, at that point, you're talking 32%, so that's a huge drop just to cut these undercut these lows. So you may not want to give it that much. You know, from the last peak to this drop, that was 31%, so that was a pretty decent consolidation already. So that might have been enough to just kind of release some of that over bullishness. Now it's just heading back up. So just keep an eye on this near term. Look at me go back to the dailies again. As long as it stays above this 10 EMA on the daily, probably nothing to worry about. You know, if you start to see these big climactic runs, we'll look at it at that point. But for now, NEO's looking good, moving along, steady Eddie there. Definitely one of my favorites. Let's take a look at some of the other ones I'm watching. I just sent out a tweet a little bit ago on Civic. So Civic had a big breakout and then set up here right to the 10 on the daily. And if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see this nice action on Civic on the 2 hour chart. You can see where I had this big run. I think this was 100%, and then it did another almost 100% there. Since then, had a pretty decent pullback. Very constructive also. Look at the volume, just really dried up toward the lows here. 50-day or the 50 period moving average held on this 2 hour, and now it's heading back up. So Civic is looking very nice, very strong. Let's look at Omise Go. That's one I've been watching here. Not bad, you know, kind of holding these moving averages. As long as these moving averages hold, Omise Go is looking really good. Again, the volume action here has been pretty constructive. Seeing some volume coming in here as it starts to move up to the right side again. So keep an eye on that one. That one's looking pretty good. And so here's Omise on the daily, and the daily chart has just been really strong. Very nice volume patterns here, just moving up. So I'm liking this one. On this pullback here, it looks pretty decent. If it sets up another little base like it did down here, that'd be even better. So keep an eye on that one. Let's look at 10X, another one I've been watching here. Let's see here what it's doing on the daily chart. Had a pretty decent volume reversal here. Some selling showed up here at the highs. If we zoom in a little bit, you could see this was selling, but you know, it's kind of a mixed signal there. There's some support coming in there, so not too bad. Again, this one's pulling back, holding this 50 period, and looks like it wants to start moving. So what I'd be looking for here is just through these moving averages to hold. This big volume bar to the upside is a pretty good signal there. So if we can get above that here, this most recent little low here, that might be a good little entry, and then look for it to clear these old highs. So let's go look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, let me see here, let's look at it on the GDAX. Broke 4,000, you know, and I kind of share the sympathy. People are kind of going, are we moving too far too fast? And you know, it does make me nervous. Certainly 4,000 Bitcoin. Here come the headlines. You know, we're going to start to see Bitcoin all over CNBC and some of these mainstream financial news stations and channels. And no doubt that's going to bring headlines. And so, yeah, it makes me a little nervous. I'd like for it to pause a little bit here. Just because, you know, we all want this ride to last a little longer here. But you don't get that in crypto, right? We've historically been very volatile. Near term, it's extended above the 10 EMA, so best case it'd be nice to see a little pause right here. But yeah, Bitcoin's just really strong right now. The RSI is definitely starting to poke above and hitting a little bit of extremes there, so I would not be surprised to see some profit taken around this 4,000 mark and see it pull back. But who knows, maybe we go to 5 first and do that. So it's kind of hard to say. But would I be buying Bitcoin right here? You know, people ask me that a lot when it starts to break out and hit these new highs, and my answer is always twofold. Short term, it could definitely pull back, it could keep going. It's higher risk here, so a lot of it depends on your time frame. Long term, I think Bitcoin's going higher, right? I mean, it just depends on your time frame. If you need the capital, or if you're hoping to make a quick gain now that it's at 4,000 going to 5, it certainly could, and it might most likely by the end of the year go to 5. But between now and then, are we gonna have some steeper pullbacks? It's just hard to say. Long term, yeah, I think Bitcoin's gonna be fine, and it'll probably be higher than 4,000. So that's, you know, just kind of depends on what your time frame is there. If you're day trading this and looking for some more of that, this is probably a higher risk entry, because you know you got some downside. Your entry point was really this little 3,500, 3,400 area that it was consolidating here, and when you see it pop above that, that was really your entry point there, or a little pullback to the moving averages like I've been talking about. And so one more, let's look at Ethereum. You know, I was hoping Ethereum broke out here, but it's just really underperforming Bitcoin still. So not a whole lot to do on Ethereum. You know, I was looking at this USD price of Ethereum, and this is before this recent little pullback, but here it was setting up a nice little, almost like a little cup with a handle, and it looked like it was starting to edge out, and then it just kind of really gave up a lot of it. It's holding the 50 moving average right now, so that's a good sign, and that's typically where they bottom if it's going to keep going. So if Ethereum can hold these recent lows, this may not be a bad entry point here, and I wouldn't give it too much more below that. So you know, on the dollar, you're talking about the 280, 285 range. But if we can see it move off of this moving average here with some pretty decent volume, that might be a good sign on Ethereum. And so one I'm watching too, I was hoping this was a little bit of a breakout here. It didn't really happen and just kind of reversed. And I think a lot of that was money moving back into Bitcoin and just pushing that higher. And so one more here, IOTA. And this kind of brings up an interesting topic. So IOTA was one that I have been on since some of these lows back in here. And just riding this, and admittedly I was shaken out during this reversal here, and this was the news on Bitfinex kind of closing the doors to US investors, and just for a lot of reasons, regulation, and I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to see more of a lot of volatility in some of the exchanges for a number of reasons, right? You're going to see more regulation, and you're going to see exchanges maybe pulling out of certain states or certain countries, and you're going to see new exchanges coming online. And exchanges is a very competitive business, and when you look at just examples in the stock market and commodities markets, they're very centralized. You know, there's a few big exchanges, and each country generally has maybe one or sometimes two big marketplaces that they all trade. And so I expect as cryptocurrency markets begin to mature, you're going to see that competition and some of the battling, and I would not be surprised to see governments step in and maybe give favor to one exchange over another. And so it's good and bad. I mean, it's bad from a centralization point of view, but it's maybe longer term good from a counterparty risk point of view. Right? If there's exchanges that are a little more secure, maybe insured, you may not have to worry about them being closed up or just disappearing with your money. But I don't like the idea of them being centralized and a little more controlled in fewer hands. So it's too bad to see Bitfinex kind of close the doors. They were definitely a good exchange, very innovative. I like a lot of the things they did do. So we'll see. That did put some news on IOTA, and you know, it's since then recovered pretty nicely. If you look at that on the dollar price, I mean, just still marching along, very nice. Admittedly, I saw this big drop happening, and I just said, let me get out of the way. It held a 10 EMA, and I didn't get back in. So just gonna watch it for now and keep an eye on things this week, see how they do. I'll put together a newsletter in coming days, show some more detail on some of the charts and maybe some of the top leaders that I'm watching right here, and some potential support and resistance zones. Just kind of thinking back at the last newsletter I sent, I've covered several of these. Obviously NEO, Omise Go. Some of the ones that have not been working were NEM. NEM's kind of breaking down here a little bit. Wave, Stratus, they were kind of breaking out, but they failed on that. So just a lot of rotation happening here. There's certainly some that are super strong, and so continue to keep an eye on these. Obviously IOTA is one I've been covering, and this is one that's still marching along very nicely. Omise Go is looking good. Keep an eye on that one. 10x, Civic. NEO's going to be the big one to watch this week, and of course Bitcoin and Ethereum, and see if Litecoin can wake up here soon. So that's going to be it for now, guys. Till next time, take care.